For businesses around the world, today isn't a restart, it's a rethink. That's why they're partnering with IBM. Retailers are keeping their systems up as millions of orders move online. Call centers are using IBM Watson to manage customer questions with AI. And solutions built on the IBM cloud are helping patients receive trusted information. Today we're rethinking how business moves forwards. Let's put smart to work. Visit ibm.com/smart/UK to learn more.
At Ring, we reinvented the doorbell. And now we're changing the way you look at whole home protection with Ring security cameras.
Wait, Ring does cameras too?
That's right. And they're so versatile, you can put them inside or outside, wherever you need them most.
Handy.
Ring cameras let you see, hear and speak to anyone inside or outside your home. And you can control them all from the Ring app to keep you and your family connected and protected.
Now that is smart.
Ring. Smart security made simple. Learn more at ring.com.
Welcome to another edition of the Paranormal Concept Show, exclusively to the PAUK network. I'm your host, Paul Rook, and tonight, as always, I'm joined by Kerry Greenaway and Richard Clements. Hello, guys.
Hello.
Hello. Hello. How's your week been in lockdown?
Not bad, thank you.
Good?
Yeah, I've been doing all right, yeah.
At Ring, we reinvented the doorbell. And now we're changing the way you look at whole home protection with Ring security cameras.
Wait, Ring does cameras too?
That's right. And they're so versatile, you can put them inside or outside, wherever you need them most.
Handy.
Ring cameras let you see, hear and speak to anyone inside or outside your home. And you can control them all from the Ring app to keep you and your family connected and protected.
Now that is smart.
Ring. Smart security made simple. Learn more at ring.com.
Popped out the other day, sort of a bit further afield, but yeah, feels like things are starting to move on. Just a little, mind, but yeah.
Little step forwards all the time.
Yeah.
But it is giving me a chance to sort my crystal room out properly.
I'll see.
And have you done much research for tonight's show?
Yeah, I'm don't sit on my laurels over here, Mm-hmm.
No, they'd be quite prickly, wouldn't it?
And we've called another person into the studio as well for us tonight, haven't we, Paul?
We have. We're talking tech with phone apps tonight. So who else could we have than Brian Holloway?
Hello.
Hello, Brian. How are you?
Hello. I'm fine, thank you.
Good. How are you coping during the lockdown?
I think about the same as everybody else. We're ready to go out now. I think we're ready to go out and play.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's been a long time. It's been a long lockdown, but I think, like what you were just saying, I think things are just starting to turn a little bit now. Definitely.
Well, that's it. Small steps, I think.
Yeah.
And, we got to obviously still stick to some of the rules that are coming out, but
yeah,
softy catch.
Exactly.
Apparently.
Like Curry said, it's small steps, but it's steps in the right direction. That's the main thing.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely.
Definitely. And we've got the weather. I mean, it's beautiful weather to get out and
It's been
explore
gorgeous.
your local area, safely, obviously, and find places that you wouldn't necessarily have thought of. I mean, Rich has been doing quite a lot of that in his area, and luckily enough, he's out in the country, so he's got that accessibility. But even if you was in the city, walk those pavements, see what's around, look at the history that's in a lot of towns. When you walk around London, you sometimes miss things, don't you? Or some of the bigger cities, you miss some of the history that's surrounding you, because it's so busy normally. Well, now it's not really. So it's a good chance to embrace your local area.
Exactly.
Well, that's it. I do my bit for the country. I stay in the towns.
But I echo that sentiment, Kerry. I've been finding lots of little corners of my local area I'd forgotten all about, or places I never even knew about. It's really interesting at the moment.
Yeah, Brian, whereabouts are you in the country? I mean, we don't know your address, obviously, but roughly, because I know normally you're up in Yorkshire, up by Whitby, aren't you? But you're not there at the moment. You're locked down somewhere else. So what's it like where you are?
Luckily, I'm locked down in the place where I was born, the town where I grew up, a little town called Crook in County Durham. And it's an old mining town, so it has history itself, not as much as some others, but it's got history. And like you said, you can walk around even a place like Crook and see things that you've never seen before, because you're walking around even Crook, it's so quiet at the moment. You're not sort of dodging people all the time. There's not the hustle and bustle, so you're looking more. Mm-hmm. And you're looking at the building, the architecture, wandering off down streets that I normally wouldn't have, even though I've lived here all my life, or most of my life, I've never been down some of them, so I've wandered about, and it's amazing what you see, like what you said. So...
And I have to say, the UK, we're very, very blessed with a plethora, love that word, of history, from all eras surrounding us, even like from the big inner cities to the countryside. There's so much out there that you can now go out and explore a little bit more. Now we've got a little bit, you can be out for longer than an hour, and there's no reason. And a lot of these places, if you're going off the beaten track a bit, you're not really going to bump into people either. So, it's a good time to do it, I would say.
Well, it can be. I mean, I've chose not to. I go around the local town, obviously, but I haven't gone further afield as yet. Because myself and Sam were talking about it, and we said, yes, go out. You can go out to some abandoned buildings, and there's nobody there. But our philosophy: what if you injure yourself? What if you fall? You need help. Then other people have got to come to help. So. True. We've sort of thought about that a little bit, so we thought, no, again, let's just wait just a little bit longer, just a tiny bit longer, and to make sure it's just 100% safe, and you're definitely not going to be putting anybody else at risk by going out, even unintentionally, you know what I mean? So I'd rather just wait a little bit. There's plenty, common sense, exactly. There's plenty we can do. I mean, I can find plenty to do in here paranormal, just being in the house, so at the minute I'm happy staying where I am. Just
That's the thing though, isn't it? It's about particularly in regards to the paranormal, we've all found a different I suppose a different avenue, or re-embracing old avenues that we perhaps had let go because the focus had been on getting out into the field. Well, now we've not been able to do that. So we've found, like, I've been embracing my spiritual side and my crystals again, which I hadn't done for a while. That's in my house, obviously. And then, you're an app developer, paranormal app developer, which, absolutely brilliant, which we're going to talk about because that's what you do. And you do investigate as well yourself. So, that's the whole side of it. But I think a lot of people in the field have actually been reading books about the paranormal, or looking online about different things. And I'm seeing a lot of that sort of thing coming through. And, talking to each other in a way that they haven't. I mean, gosh, my Facebook live feeds go crazy in the evenings, with various people talking, just doing, like lives and podcasts and things, not podcasts so much, but live feeds, with other people. And that's brilliant to see, isn't it? Because it shows that the community is still connected, even though we're not out in the field.
Exactly. We're talking more.
Yeah.
Talking to each other more. But, and we've been seeing the same. We've been doing lives since the lockdown started every second day, or we've tried to. And again, it's just to engage people. And for some people who are in the paranormal who maybe don't have as many people to talk to, or don't have other team members and things, so they can just come on and we just talk and just interact and just use the apps and just give people just take them away from what's actually going on a little bit as well. Take the mind off it a little bit and just let them focus on the paranormal. Yeah,
and that's important because it is our hobby. Let's be fair. We might run events or sell apps or whatever it be that we do. It's not a lot of money we're earning. It is a hobby.
Oh, no.
It's a hobby. Put that out there. And what better than to talk to like-minded people? And I've even seen some of the conferences going online, which has been brilliant.
Yeah.
You know,
Exactly.
if you can't get there, what better than to bring it to the people?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
I think a lot.
Sorry,
I think that. Yeah, I think a lot of people have sort of learned the new sort of skills and new sort of social interacting skills during this, especially online. I think we can all agree, before this sort of happened, there was, the sort of interaction skills and the social sort of skills on Facebook were pretty damn poor.
Yeah.
yeah.
That's all I'm saying to that one. Yeah.
No comment. I think it still has work. That's all I'm going to say on that one. Still needs a bit more work, people.
A little bit.
So, Brian, first of all, let's go back to the beginning. For the people that don't know who you are and what you do, how long have you been in the field for?
Forever. Literally since I was about 3 years old. That's when my paranormal journey started. When my first paranormal experience happened, and I've literally been there ever since. I've never, it just took over my life, basically.
So what took you down the tech route more?
Well, the tech route obviously started a little bit later on because I'm old enough to remember when there was no tech. We were back at basics. The main tech started. And the getting into the ITC, the ghost boxes, and all the other stuff was when I moved to Gibraltar, fair few years ago now. And before that, I was using a little bit of tech. We all use digital recorders, and we've used the odd K2 meter. But that's when I really started looking into what we class as modern ITC, paranormal investigation. I got involved with a TV show there, and they brought us on as kind of a tech guy. With another person, Lee Digman, and we kind of just had free reign. We could do what we want. So I started looking into these things a little bit more as a little bit of an experiment, and that's kind of where it started.
And from there, you've gone onto more the phone technology, haven't you? Like apps that you can download onto your phone. Now, these are controversial in the field.
Yeah. Yes.
Some people love them. Some people hate them and say, it's just a gimmick, as it were.
Yeah.
Having said that, I'm quite sceptical about about a phone app. As you know, we've spoken before, so you know my feelings on them.
Yep.
Having said that, quite a few times something very interesting happens when you use them.
Yeah.
So, guys, I'm going to bring Paul and Richard in on this. What are your thoughts on them?
I'll let Richard go first.
Yeah, I haven't really paid much attention to them in the past. I've seen them being used. I've been present whilst they're being used, and if they do say something interesting and relevant, you sort of just think, "Oh, that's interesting and relevant." But if they don't come up with anything, you just say, "Oh, well, yeah, it's just a phone app." So and for me, they're quite 50-50. That is sort of my general take on them.
Paul?
Okay, when I first started doing the paranormal investigating, there was apps like Ghost Radar and other bits and pieces like that, and to me that sort of put me off the apps because I know that the phone isn't designed to do what those apps sort of claim. But what intrigues me, especially with Brian's new app that we're going to be talking about later on in the show, I actually got to ask Brian lots of questions about how the app worked.
Yep.
So it set my mind at rest that actually what was on the phone app isn't really using anything that the phone's got in its memory already. It's it's okay. It's the program that does the sweeping, but there's no word banks or anything like that used. So I find those quite interesting, and just the mere fact that I could talk to Brian about it, it just makes it a whole lot better for me.
It does definitely make it more accessible, understanding it way when you've got someone who actually develops them, so you can ask those questions. Like some of the tech that was released before, excuse me, like the Ovilus and stuff like that, you couldn't really sort of, how many words are in the word bank? How are they formatted in the word bank? You know, is there a GPS that's picking up where you are so it makes it relevant to where you are, kind of thing. Those things are questions that you want to ask to see how relevant it is. So we got Brian on because he's great at that.
Well, that's the thing. A lot of developers, they don't want to tell you these things.
Yes.
For obvious reasons. But I've always been open and honest of how they work. And, you know, I've been trying to for a long time, since the day I started doing these things, to pull away from the old sort of apps that you were talking about, like the Ghost Radars and some of the other ones that just, like I said, they were designed for what they did. They were more of a gimmick than they were a serious thing. And like you said, some of them at the time could not do what they were stating they could do. We've now since learned that, you know, you can use the magnetic compass in a phone. That's a thing. And we can use that. But mostly our apps, like what you said, you can turn the phone off, like onto airplane mode, so there is no phone part really. You're just using the phone or the tablet as basically a miniature computer. It doesn't need to be connected to anything. It doesn't need to be connected to the phone. It doesn't communicate with anything inside the phone. You can turn all that off, and it will still work just fine.
Would you recommend somebody having a phone that's got nothing on their memory banks at all? So you don't connect to your socials, you don't put anything in your contact list, you literally have a phone purely and simply for this kind of thing. Would you recommend that?
If people are concerned about that sort of thing, yeah. I mean, you can get a tablet. I mean, obviously to get it, unless you sideload it, you have to go onto the Play Store, so you have to put certain information in. But if you don't connect to any other social media, you don't put Facebook, you don't put anything on, you can still put one of these apps on. Then you can turn all communication with the outside world off. You could technically even take, you know, half of the software off, and the app will still run fine. Because it doesn't need, like I said, it doesn't need to permissions. Because if you know on modern Android, if you install anything, it tends to need permissions to access this or access the memory, access the memory card. Ours don't, because they don't need to read anything. The only app we've ever done, or the apps we've ever done that need permission, is the ones that have the echo feature, which means it needs access to the microphone just because that's how the echo works. But it doesn't need access to your SD cards, to anything inside the phone other than that. And that's only certain apps as well.
Okay, now you've got quite a few out now. What's your latest one?
The latest one that was out was called The Watcher. It was one that was developed quite a long time ago as an internal team app. It was never meant to be released, but we showed it on some live streams at the time, and people loved it. So we sat on it for a long time, and then people just kept asking, you know, that app you used in the live, is that ever going to be released? Until the point where I thought, let's just release it. And so so we obviously reskinned it because it was more designed for us, and we reskinned it and we put it out there. We are working on another one at the minute, on a personal one, because we do two different types of apps. We do the personal ones that's like ours, and we also do team collaboration ones, like the Project Paranormal one, the Paranormal Hauntings. We've just done one for the Axiom team, which was actually one of the later ones as well. But at the minute, we're working on two specifically. We're working on the Witch 2, Medusa, which is a follow-up to the most popular app that we've done, which was The Witch.
Yes.
And like I say, that we're very proud of that one. That was voted top app on Higgy Pop, and people have used it, but was getting a bit old, bless it. And we thought, how can we bring it forward into the new engine that we use, into the new thing? And that's how The Witch 2 came about. It's nearly ready. We've been testing it on the lives. We've gotten some interesting results, let's put it that way. And we're hoping to release that one sometime next week, possibly by the end of the week. And we're also working on a one in conjunction with Fred Batt from Most Haunted.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He contacted us. He was interested in having something done, and he's bringing out a new line called the Demonologist. And
Of course he is.
Yeah.
Good old friend.
So he asked if we would we'd design something. We'd design an app and possibly some hardware as well, which is we're working on in the future. But we're on working with that as well. That's still a little way off. But it's really cool. It's really unique. It uses Fred's voice pattern in the banks, his vocal tones and things, which again is unique. And yeah, that one again is something a little bit special, and it's coming along nicely.
Awesome. Now you've mentioned the voice banks on there. Now what you do is you take a selection of voice banks, don't you?
Yeah.
And you cut it all up, mix it all up, tend to run it backwards, if I remember rightly.
It's all the audio banks, everything is ran in reverse. It's not just ran in reverse, it's reversed at source. Before it even gets into the app, it's already reversed. So, and what we do is then we go through those banks many times. We've got OCD, I think. So we go through many times, both Sam and myself, because it's always good to have two pairs of ears doing these things. And we remove any anomalies that even may sound like a word by accident backwards. And we chop all them out. So, yeah, the banks is basically chopped up as we do in that. And then they put into the app. So there is nowhere a voice can come out of that thing forwards without being manipulated in some way by spirit, by whatever you want to call it, by something.
Right. You don't even use English, do you?
We do, because we can use English. We've used all languages. We've used Latin, and I've used some old forgotten languages as well. Because it's not important about it being forwards or not, because you're reversing it. If you reverse anything, even what we say now, it comes out as complete gibberish. It's just like alien. You've got no concept of what it's trying to say or is saying. All you can really hear is these gibberish words, but it's the tones. What's important is the tones and the frequencies of the voices themselves, not what they say, and that's why we can reverse it.
That's interesting. Yeah, so all the words, well, the actual sort of stuff you got downloaded, it will still have all the phonetic qualities of
exactly
what the language is. Yeah,
but it's got all the phonetic quality still, but it's backwards.
Yeah.
So all the tones of that voice, that original voice, is still there. And like I say, the sounds of what they make, but it's unintelligible.
Yeah.
And you've got to remember, if we say we've got, well, like in the app we're going to talk about, it's got 12 banks. And they all reversed, they all have different lengths as well, and they all fire in at very high speed and at random. It's because it's a totally random algorithm. There's nothing pre-programmed, nothing. It's all random, and I'll explain a bit more about that later when we talk about that app.
Yeah.
But all these banks is all reversed. They all kind of chopped up because we've chopped all the anomalies out that we find. So there's no anomalies in there, and they firing at high speed and at random, and we're still getting voices coming out forwards and giving intelligent and relevant information.
This is what makes it interesting. Sorry, Paul.
Yeah.
Is there not anything that can interfere with it other than, obviously, you talk about spirit energy or anything?
Nope.
There's no bit of technology that could be used to interfere? No?
Not at all. It doesn't matter what you could stick the thing in a microwave. It's not going to make any difference. It's not.
Okay.
It's not it's not receiving anything to interfere with the randomness. The engine itself is all based on random algorithms. So it picks a random bank. So it'll pick a random bank. This might get a bit complicated, but I'll try my best. It picks a random bank, and then it says, I picked this bank. I need to pick a sweep rate, but in milliseconds. So it picks a random sweep rate to play that bank for. But it also then picks a random volume level every time for that bank, every time it sweeps banks. So then it'll pick, say, a bank 5. I'm going to play it for, 300 milliseconds at 40% volume. So then it'll play it. But there's also another random algorithm in there that says there's a chance that bank may or may not fire at all. just to add even more randomness. So that's basically it in a nutshell. It's just completely random. Nothing's pre-programmed, and there's nothing in the outside world that can interfere with that. No signals, no Wi-Fi signals, or anything. The only way that can be manipulated is a spirit manipulating the audio at source, using those tones, those frequencies, because we do know spirit are good or able to manipulate audio, even in the environment. So that's the principle we go on. And they seem to be very good at it.
Is there any way then that the sweep rates and things can be recorded?
No. The sweep rates, like I said, they're just all randomly picked, randomly chosen. It's just completely random, and nothing is recorded. Nothing is like, there's not a record, like there's not an internal recording on the app itself that remembers what was picked when, if you know what I mean. So there's
it's just like on like the SB7.
Yeah.
You've got the numbers flash up like for the sweep rate. So when you do get something, you can then record the numbers.
Oh, right, I see what you mean there. Yeah.
So I just wonder whether or not there was any, because you could monitor that at that level, and that same speed to see whether or not it is a repetitive signal in some way. Well, that's what I was thinking.
You can. I mean, obviously on the apps, they actually show you what the sweep rate is and the volume that's being picked at that time. It visually shows you that on screen. So you could actually technically just record the screen. You could have that information that way, but it doesn't store anything internally where you can get a record of what was played when, sort of thing. But again, when you go off randomness, like some people said, well, it's scanning at high speed, it's swapping banks. Could it just not be an anomaly? But the chances of it hitting the right banks at the right time with the right tones and the right frequencies to come out with a sentence are so astronomical that it's technically not even possible. It's just not. I mean, if that's basically the same thing as you getting a load of pots and pans and different things and start smacking them and accidentally randomly hit them in the right order at the right time to make it sound like someone saying, "Hello, I'm here. Can you help me?"
I suppose it's a bit like, there's that saying about the chimps or something.
Exactly, that's the one I was thinking of.
Typewriter for a long period of time, whatever, they can write the works of Shakespeare or something.
Exactly, but it would take a long time. It's not something that would just happen over a couple, like with the apps. It's not something. If it was possible, it would be so astronomically impossible to happen. The time period that it would, you'd maybe get one word out of 100 years of just running that app continuously for all that long. But we getting intelligent replies, we're getting names, dates, we're getting communication in real time constantly.
Have you sort of had people sort of outside the paranormal that don't sort of have an interest in the paranormal, but who are very au fait with sort of this sort of technology? And have you had any feedback from them when you sort of say what's coming out of them, and are they saying it shouldn't do that?
Yeah. Well, I've had people who obviously are very sceptical, but we've had. I work with other teams, as you know, and I work with Project Paranormal with David Barrett, and he's had many people come forward because he just exclusively uses our apps, and he's had complete skeptics come to him, complete skeptics into the tech and into the principle, but complete skeptics, and he's shown them and he's let them use these things, and they believe, because what they see and they know technically shouldn't be possible. There's only one outcome that yes, you've got to trust that the developer hasn't put anything in there. There's always that. That's a thing of a skeptic, isn't it? They say, well, you've just programmed that in there, and which again, is a thing. But the way our apps are made and the way we make them, we make it that even that's impossible to do, because it doesn't use a database of words, because it's just reversed audio. There isn't a database of anything, and for me to have to put that information in there, I think I mentioned this before, I would have to know in advance for the next 10 years, say, of anybody who's going to download this app or these apps and use them, I would already have to know in advance all of their information, all of their family information going back for generations, and I've already pre-programmed it in there. It's not possible.
I couldn't even do that for my own family.
Exactly. So you can imagine what a monumental task that would have been for me. And if I could have done that and thought that far ahead and know who was going to use it, like I said, I'd be the best psychic in the world. I'd have already known. I would.
Having said that, these are still very controversial in the field.
Yeah.
People are using them more and more. People are getting interesting responses through them for whatever reason, unexplainable. But then most of what we do is unexplainable. Let's be fair. And we're working theories and whatnots out there in the field. There are some interesting things that come out. Last time we spoke to Brian was on a different network, and we tried a new app that you were developing at the time. I can't remember which one it was. Was it the Legion? Was it Legion?
I can't remember. What's it?
Well, we tried it on air, and whilst we were on air, my TV came on. Do you remember that?
I remember that bit, yeah.
Came on full volume.
Yeah.
To the point I was like, oh my God, nobody was in the room. The TV was off. It wasn't even on standby. It was off. Came on full volume, which I don't have it on full volume. I have it on 20. And it's never done it since.
Yeah.
Never done it since. And that was before when I was, trialling an app. I tried it earlier in the day, and then we was doing it on air. We were live at the time.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, my TV's just come on.
I can remember that show because I was actually listening that night, and you could hear Kerry go, "Oh, the TV's just come on. Hang on a minute.
I better go and turn that off again." So I can't explain that because that television has never done that since.
Yeah.
Never done it since.
That is a phenomenon that other people have reported. While using these things have occurred. And that still goes on to this day.
So it's not just stuff coming from so you found that even just sort of having the app on and using it, you get stuff external from the app.
Exactly, because basically when you turn the app on, it's like any form of communication. You're opening a doorway. You're inviting spirit in to communicate with you. And sometimes that spills over that they do other things as well while they're there. So like turning TVs on or moving an object or knocking or other things that people have reported. So we find, that it does stir up activity as well, which is technically why you're turning it on in the first place. You're wanting to generate that energy and bring spirit in. But sometimes, like I said, they get a bit naughty and start doing other things.
Well, it certainly made me jump on that particular night. And put it this way, Brian, if it happens tonight, I am going to totally freak out. Because that was a couple of years ago, and I think if it was a fault in the television, it would have happened again since then, and it hasn't happened at all. And you can only take my word for that. But, I'm an honest kind of girl. I'm not going to lie about something like that. And you'd say we were live on air. I wouldn't have even had a television on while I was on air anyway, and that happened. And I say we were playing with this app on air when we were doing it. So definitely I would say it is very, very interesting to me. I'm not a tech girl. I don't get the tech side of it. Phones, for me, are basic. Phone people, message people, check my social media. That's kind of all I do. Maybe Google something now and again if we're in that kind of scenario. So the rest of what a phone can do is a bit beyond me.
Yeah.
You can do so much on a phone now, can't you? You can, like you said, you can do EMF reading. You can take compass bearings on there. It is, like you say, like a mini computer in your hand.
It's amazing. You basically, as a paranormal investigator, you take the phone equation out of it. You turn the phone off. You turn all that stuff off. You've got a digital recorder.
Yeah.
You've got a video camera. You've got, like I said, a mini computer. So we can run the other software on it. You've got not all phones, but most of them have a magnetic compass, which we can use to detect an electromagnetic field. Basic science. So you take the phone bit out of the equation, you've got an entire little paranormal toolkit in your pocket. But because it's a phone and it's called a phone, people still have that stigma. it's still people just kind of get past the fact that it's a phone. But in its essence, the phone bit's been added. It's just a little computer in your pocket, and they've put a phone in so you can phone people and message people. That's it. But it's just in its basic form. It's just a little computer with a screen on it and a microphone and a speaker.
So the days where we would say you should leave your phone in the car, miles away from the investigation, we've kind of moved on from that thought pattern now, haven't we?
We have, yes. What all I say to people is, obviously, as an investigator, I've had the problem myself where people come in and they're just loaded with mobile phones, but they don't turn them off. And it does send some of your equipment a bit crazy. But if you turn your phone onto airplane mode, it cannot send or receive a signal. And it will not interfere with anything at that point, as long as you remember to do that. That's an important step. Mm-hmm. Now, some apps do need a connection to the outside world, which is an issue. Because then, obviously, there's a problem with other gear. But that's, again, why we develop the apps in such a way where they don't need that. So you can turn all that off. And as long as everyone remembers to do that, you have no problem. There's no issue.
Right. Can we just talk about a basic telephone call conversation for a moment? Mm-hmm. Because there's an interesting experiment regarding phones where you basically phone a phone and then leave the phone in a room and you're miles, say miles away, you're sort of like in the hub room or whatever, and the phone's left with an open phone line in another room. Paul, do you want to take it from this point?
Yeah, we was on an investigation at a location with another paranormal team. Mm-hmm. It was actually Vivian Powell that was with, and she suggested doing this experiment. It was just off the top of her head. She said, she likes to use mobile phones on an investigation. Yeah. So what she done, she had my phone, which is a Samsung S9, and I think she had the similar phone or an iPhone. Yeah. I remember. And she phoned my phone, so the line was open. Mm-hmm. Then I took my phone up into an empty room. Yeah. By the time I came back downstairs, they had music playing through the phone line, as if someone had was watching the TV. That was it. And they were getting responses when they were going, "Hello, is anyone there?" Mm-hmm. They were getting a gruffly voice coming through. But I think that could just be a static or some sort of static through the phone. But it just seemed to be responding every time she spoke. So I don't know if that's some sort of feedback going on. But the fact that this TV was playing was quite interesting, because we asked whatever was on the other end if they could turn it down, and it was turned down. Mm-hmm. Then it was turned over to another channel so you could hear different music playing. We showed our producer, Andy Mercer, that, and he identified the film that was playing as Night of the Demon. Mm-hmm. And in the midst of the conversation, the number 2010 come up. Right. Now, once we identified the film, I believe Richard looked into when it was played last on British TV. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that came up as 2010. Yeah. Just the mere fact that we had this music coming through, we looked at all sorts of explanations. I mean, there was nothing. I can totally categorically say there was nothing in that room that played music. There was no TV, nothing like that whatsoever. There was just a table, a few chairs, and a cupboard in the corner, and that was it. And to this day, I still can't fathom what that music could have been. Mm-hmm.
So talking to somebody who knows quite in depth a phone, is there any way that a phone line, just a normal straightforward, if I phoned you on the phone, that could be interfered with?
It could be. I did have an occasion once where I was phoned somebody and I was talking to them and someone else came through on the line. I'm not saying that's what's happened here, because, again, there was an interaction. But, it is possible. It is possible, even with the modern phones. But the principle, because we're working on a similar thing, but not with a phone, but with a certain way of transmitting a ghost box over airwaves. And it's the same principle of what I said, that spirit can manipulate energy, they can manipulate audio. So basically, when you put the phone in the other room and phone that phone, and it's just sitting in another room, you've created a real-time digital recorder, really. Basically, the microphone is listening and picking up audio just like a digital recorder would, and spirit are able to manipulate the audio, even whether it's directly or in the atmosphere itself. And all you're doing is you've created a connection down the phone line from one phone to another, and you're listening in real time. So I kind of get how that would work, yeah. Again, could it have been a cross line or interference coming in? Yes. But to get it for that length of time and to have interaction...
It was a good 20 minutes long.
Exactly.
That conversation.
Exactly. Which that would have been unusual. The one I had only lasted like 30 seconds. You know what I mean? Someone came in, I was, what's going on? And then I could hear someone else on the line, and then they went. But to have it for 20 minutes, yeah, that kind of, I would say, nearly rules that out. And the fact is, like I say, you had this interaction where you asked, can you turn the telly up? Can you turn the telly down? Can you turn it over? If that was someone on a cross line, they just speak to you back and say, what are you talking about, mate? You know what I mean?
Yeah, mind your own business.
Yeah, exactly.
Because we tried it. We tried it 3 times. In the second time, we thought, okay, we'll have a voice recorder in the room as well, because it was literally thinking at the top of our head, sort of thing. Because we literally come up with it that night.
Yeah.
And then when we got the voice recorder back, we could hear Viv in the hub room saying, "Hello, is anyone there?" But there was nothing on the voice recorder. But yet we were still getting a response over the phone.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, again, spirit can either manipulate the energy in the environment and the sounds to create a voice, which sometimes you hear that with your own ears. That's how you hear these things with your own ears. But they can also imprint or seem to imprint onto specific devices. I've had a situation where we've had 2 or 3 digital recorders in the same area, and one of them has picked something up, but the other 2 didn't. So, again, we work on the principle that spirit, if they want to imprint the voice, or I don't know how they do that, but they seem to be able to do it, they can actually do it on an individual device rather than over the whole lot. It's like I said, we still don't know exactly how they do it or how it works, but based on like things like that, we know they can do it.
Yeah.
What do you say to those people that say that it is us imprinting that word or situation onto a piece of tech? Like, mainly with EVPs, experiments have been done where everyone focuses on one word, and then it seems to come out on a voice recorder. What do you think of that kind of experiment?
Well, it is possible, because what you've got to remember is a spirit, a ghost, used to be alive like we are. It's the energy and things. So I believe that a human, again, if you put enough intention and enough thought, you could technically do what that spirit does in a way, because you're made up of the same thing. You're the same energy. You're just trapped in this meat body for a little while, getting chauffeured around. So I believe that type of thing is possible. Yes. Do I think it's what's happening with all spirit communication? No. Because, I've gone into an investigation like we all have, and you ask out for if there's anyone there, and you get sort of like something coming back that's claiming to be a demon, or is claiming to be somebody from the 16th century or whatever, talking to you. That's the last thing that was in my head when I was asking the question, for me to imprint that on there, So, no, like I said, I don't think it answers the question fully, no. But I do think if enough people got together, or an individual was really in tune, if you know what I mean, I think, yes, it could be possible, yeah.
Because I say there's so many theories in regards to what a human can do and what it can't do, and it's very easy to sort of like look at that particular route and then discount the spiritual side of things.
Exactly.
But it doesn't explain everything. It can explain perhaps some, but it doesn't always cover it under the same umbrella, does it?
Exactly. And as human beings, spirits trapped inside this thing, we sort of contained in this body, and I think maybe that can give limitations to what what is the spirit, what is you can do. But when you're released, you don't have those limitations anymore. So spirit can do a lot more than obviously we can. I mean, we can't move objects just with pure thought, can we? And that's technically what a spirit's doing. It's manipulating energy as a thought pattern because they don't have a body anymore. But we technically can't. Well, but there are some things out there, people who are able to do certain things like that. So I think there maybe is anomalies like that. But as a whole, you know, we sort of trapped and limited to what we can do.
Boys?
Yeah.
It certainly wouldn't have created the situation that Paul had in regards to
No,
the phone line
no.
for 20 minutes.
No, not for 20 minutes.
Not
no.
for 20 minutes.
There's
It
no
certainly
way.
couldn't have created that, even with, like you said, even with the cross line or, you know, looking at something more prosaic. And actually, you know, we talked about, sometimes we say if something's too good to be true, then it usually is, right?
Yeah.
However,
yeah, definitely.
to fake something like that or create a situation. If you're a location and you want to fake something, I'm not saying it's impossible, but it probably would have taken a heck of a lot of organising to do before you do it. And because it was an experiment that was sort of devised there and then on the night by Viv, you know, how would they know how to do that? Unless,
exactly.
You know.
And the fact is, if it was the thought pattern, like I say, a human actually imprinting it. When you put the phone up there, the last thing that was on your mind, I can guarantee, is a film from 2010.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And that specific thing, and being able to remember the exact music and the television program in your head, and to be able to switch it over as well onto a different channel in your head. So
I know, and your volume as well. God, that's clever.
But, I mean, we moved the location where the phone was into another building. And we got what sounded like a little girl talking to us. Now, this girl has been heard singing before now, so we was like singing Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. But rather than having like the last word, we'd stop. Yeah. But the spirit carried on. We found that really interesting as well.
And that happened on a couple of other occasions without this team. So the other team heard about this, thought, oh, we'll try that. When they went in, and they had the same thing.
Yeah.
Didn't they?
They didn't get the music.
No, but they got the little girl.
Everything else, they got. Which, I don't know.
So the television incident does seem to be a one-off so far.
As far as we're aware.
See, because I even, to think about it logically, you know, the only thing I could come up with would be some sort of time slip.
Yeah.
But, you know, even that for me is a bit far-fetched.
Yeah.
It can't be that.
Paul watches Doctor Who and everything. So.
No, but there are documented cases of time slips.
No, Would that have been one of them?
I don't know. But I would like to go back, but I think the building that it's in now is just in such a decrepit state, you know. There was an investigator there, and he had a bit of the ceiling fall down onto his head. Black mould all over the place that the owner doesn't like to tell you about. It's a health and safety now. So.
Well, whatever, it became very interesting at the time. It caused a bit of a stir amongst us lot, as you can imagine. But actually, it's starting to show that phones are becoming more and more relevant inside the field rather than leave them at home, don't take them onto the investigation. It's becoming more interesting each time when people, or I say people, say teams, start using the tech that's actually at their fingertips beyond what normal tech that you would imagine to see, like your millimeters and your K2s and your spirit boxes and stuff like that. We're almost like going beyond that now. And this is becoming really interesting. It's becoming very interesting. I'm not a tech person. I don't know these things. I just go, oh, yeah, it's a fun piece of tech to try. Let's see what happens. You know, like I am with all of it, to be fair, because my thing is a spiritual thing. It's like crystals and minerals out in the field. And but even working in that way with some of the apps that we've been playing with, it's incredibly interesting to me. Now, Brian, when you go out in the field, do you predominantly use your apps or do you do everything?
We kind of do everything. We've been asked this before. When when we go out in the field, we don't turn the tech on straight away. Regardless of whether it's apps or K2 meters, we just go into the location and we just feel the energy. We just, we just tune ourselves in a little bit. We feel the energy. We kind of sense where we need to be, where we need to go, where we need to settle to then start using the tech. Then we turn the tech on. Obviously, we use our own apps when we're doing the ITC. And we use a range of other tech as well. We use the standard. We've got digital recorders, night vision cameras, SLS cameras, things like that. But I find that all those are good. And digital recorders, obviously, there's nothing better than capturing a spirit voice in its purest form on a digital recorder. I mean, that's still like the holy grail of the paranormal. But I always like to have an app on me, no matter where I am or what I'm doing, just so I can turn it on and you can get a different type of communication. Digital recorder, you ask a question, you get a reply, you play it back, you get a reply, but it's not exactly real time. The idea with the app is you can turn it on and you can have real-time communication. But I would suggest to everybody, use it as a secondary. Use your own instinct first, your own feelings. You're the best K2 meter that you've got. You're the best, device that you have for picking up on energy and picking up on spirit. And try and use that first.
I go with that every single day of the week. And that's how I work in the field.
Yeah.
That's me. I'm quite open to trying experiments with them. In fact, actually, what I like to do is use them in conjunction with each other. So later on in the evenings, once you've done your normal thing, you walk around and you set up and all that sort of stuff. When you start working, I like to actually work completely independently, and then other people around me use their tech to see if they can capture anything from that I might be helping to bring through. We've had interesting results with various times where I've been doing a crystal thing, and that's been looked at with SLS cameras and voice recorders and things. Interesting things have come out from that, and we've even done that with apps, where I've been doing my thing. So I'm not actually caring about the tech side of it. I'm just doing my thing. And then other people are doing their thing in conjunction. And it's very interesting sometimes what comes out of that. So it's important to use all the tools in your toolbox, not just...
Exactly. Not just lock down to one. Exactly.
Not just lock it down to one,
And use what works. I mean, again, we've always said that, as we know, there are people who love apps. There are people who hate apps, and things like that. But I've always just said, use what works for you. You don't have to use any one particular piece of kit. If you don't like K2 meters, use something else.
Yeah.
Pick what works for you and what gives you the best results, and just go with that and stick with it. If it's getting you the results you want.
There's not one size fits all.
Exactly.
Even in the spiritual field, when we talk about various tools, some people like tarot, some people like oracle cards, some people like crystals, some people like, I don't know, bones. You know what I mean? Everyone's got their sort of like. We talk about it in regards to your energy signature is trained to different things, so it's what suits you, and that's no different when you're in the spirit. Whether you're working spiritually or in the paranormal field, if it works for you, do it. There is no right or wrong in this field, is there?
No, exactly. And the thing that gets me, the little bit of a pet hate is, I use what works for me. But just say, like, Kiri, you said to me, I do this instead, and I wouldn't say to you, well, it's rubbish. That's nonsense.
No,
it doesn't work. I think you're daft for doing it. But people with the apps, the people that don't like them, instead of just sort of saying, well, it's not my thing, but if it works for you, the attack. I've seen people literally attack people for using these things and calling them horrible names. You're stupid. You don't know what you think. And that's a thing that I don't understand and I don't like in the field. Like I said, I don't care what other people use. If it works for them, I'm happy for them. Doesn't mean it's going to work for me, but I would never judge them for it. Or I would never tell them they were wrong.
No, that's something that really needs, it's like, you're dead right there. Everyone's got their own way of working. Who are you to say that somebody else's way of doing it is wrong? If they're getting results, in that way.
Well, yeah.
You can learn from each other.
Exactly.
Try that. Why not have a go at how they do it? You might find that works better for you. It might not. You go, okay, that's fine. You carry on doing your thing. But for me, it didn't kind of work. I'm going to try something, or do my thing, But there's nothing better than a team who gels and works well together. How much of that do you think has an effect on the field of a well-gelled team? Do you think there are better results from that, or just it doesn't really matter?
It's very important to me, because if you have a team that's not gelled and the energy's not right, that's going to affect everything that you do. That's going to affect your mental state going into an investigation, your energy. We believe that spirits pick up on energy and pick up on you and how like the mood. Like I say, we know some spirits react more to a happy sort of environment, and some more of a darker one. Some, whereas we believe we always have a laugh in the paranormal because that raises that energy level up. Some spirits like slightly more negative. So, but if your team's off balance, it just throws the whole thing off to me. If you've got a team that's gelled and you're all on the same wavelength, it just lifts that energy to a different level. And to me, just makes things a lot easier to communicate.
I agree with that, guys.
Yeah.
What do you two think?
Yeah, I do. I
Yep.
totally agree with that one.
I think trust is a major point as well.
Oh, God, you've got to trust. I've always said in my team, I mean, the team at the minute is very small because we've basically, there's just two of us. And that's the basically way it's going to stay. Keep your circle small sometimes. But when you've had a bigger team, and I've always said, I need to trust everyone in the team. I need to trust that if I've sent someone to a certain location to gather evidence, that I know when they come back and they present that evidence, that it's genuine, that they haven't faked anything, they haven't embellished anything, that it's exactly how it happened. And that's a very important thing, because if you can't trust your own team to deliver credible evidence, it just, again, it knocks the whole team off and it knocks the whole vibe. And the trust is probably one of the most important parts.
I'm totally agreeing. I think if you lose trust in a team member, then that's at the point where you need to rethink.
You need to part ways.
Yeah. You need to part ways and rethink what's going on, because you're never going to trust any results you get then, because you don't trust them, quite frankly. That's a simple line, right? And part ways amicably.
Exactly.
You don't need the paradrama. You don't need any of that.
No.
Part your ways amicably, move on in your own pathway in regards to the paranormal. We've all done it. We've all changed pathways and worked with different people and stuff like that. So we're actually coming up to halfway through the through the show. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, Paul, Richard and myself have actually been playing with one of Brian's apps, and we're going to talk about that one.
Excellent.
I know, right? Exciting. Will my TV turn on again is what I want to know. On that note, we're going to take a quick break and we'll be back right after this.
Hello, Harry Price here. If there's nothing me and my friends enjoy more here on the other side, it is to sit back and relax and listen to the Paranormal Concept Show, right here on the PAUK Radio Network. Broadcasting a plethora of interesting and informative content for all your paranormal needs. Find them across social media to keep up to date with forthcoming shows and all their other adventures. Hello, is there anybody there?
And welcome back to the Paranormal Concept Show, exclusive to the Paranormal UK Radio Network. Now, before the break, we were talking all things app-wise, paranormal app, obviously, with the lovely Brian Holloway. And we were talking lots of different aspects of phone use in regards to using them in paranormal investigations. And we kind of have decided that the field's moved on a bit and they're okay to use under certain circumstances in the field. And it's actually like a little computer in your hand. You can do so much with this, more than just, what I use it for. It's like make phone calls and check my Facebook. So, we knew Brian was coming on. We know he's an app developer.
We did.
So we went, right, okay, let's try it out. So we went away and we went to Google Play Store and we found loads of different apps, there's hundreds of different apps to choose from. Not all Brian's, loads and loads of other people do them as well, but we had Brian, so we were picking one of Brian's. And we chose the Axiom app. Right? Great little app.
Yep.
Dead easy to use. Isn't it, Richard?
For some of us.
Just
carry on.
Tell Brian, Richard, how you got on with the app before we go any further. I can't believe you did this.
This is the first time I've ever been actually asked to road test something. I thought, I finally made it into the broadcasting world. I can actually go out and do something. So I picked a location. It was a battle site, not too far away from me, because I lived just outside of Malden. So there was a Viking battle there. So I thought, that's got to be the place to go. A lot of energy.
Yep.
That. Went down there, and it was pretty quiet. And I started the app off and was talking away and But at the end of the day, about an hour I was using this for, and I thought, well, I haven't really got anything, and so I'll report back to the guys. But just before we come on air, I told the guys my results, and they go, well, you didn't switch it on. I went, well, I did. I got all sorts of music and stuff like that. He goes,
Gregorian chant was the term.
You fired up the ambient band, didn't you?
Yes. But I quite like the bell as well, and I thought that was all part of it.
So he's been walking around the battlefield, everybody, with the app playing.
Yeah, but you met some interesting... You met some interesting people on the way, though, didn't you, Richard?
Yes, but that's for the other channel, yes.
Playing Gregorian chant and bells, like the bell tolls, around, talking away to it, wondering why you weren't getting anything. We need some tech training, I feel.
I first heard the singing, and that was sort of Latin-y, and I thought, perhaps I'm getting through to the Vikings, and perhaps they did like a good sing. But, yes, it wasn't too much of a success. But trust me, Brian, I'm going out a bit later on in the week to a nice little ruined castle I know. Yeah. It's Baconsthorpe up in Norfolk, and that's sort of in the middle of nowhere. And now I've found the right button to press, I will be doing some more experiments. I'd done it briefly before I came on air. The guys were listening in, so I managed to switch it on, and it did sound interesting. I was getting some sort of basic response, but I really need to take it out into the field again. But that's my little story. Yeah. But I don't know about what the other two have been up to, so I'll let them.
All I can say is he needs some tech training.
He does.
Just as a hint,
because I've been in lockdown, I've literally just played with the app indoors. Yeah. I haven't really got too. I mean, I can hear things being said, but obviously in reverse.
Yeah.
But nothing as yet has come out as a message. Although one word did sort of spring out to me a little bit earlier. A-hole, but that was like, yeah, I was like,
well, we've had a similar
they
thing.
Know me so well.
Yeah, we've had things like that ourselves where we've had a few profanities come through. Yeah, I think sometimes some spirits have got a sense of humour.
That's. I mean, you should have heard what I called it back. That's not for this show. But yeah, no, that's the only thing I got. But it could have quite easily been something else. I don't know. It's just something. Did that say that to me? I don't know.
Oh yeah,
it knows you so well, Paul. That app already.
Yeah, it does. It obviously knows me really well. So, Kerry, how did you get on with it?
I did brilliantly. All I'm going to say, I know how to use my tech on this one. No, I have. I'm in a very unique position because I do have a lot of artifacts and crystals and things like that. So I thought I'd try a little experiment. I have a genuine cannonball. I know where it came from. So I was thinking, right, okay, let's play with the cannonball and the app together. Let's see what's occurring here. And so I've got the app running next to the cannonball. And then bearing in mind I'm working spiritually while I'm doing this, so I'm tuning in and all that sort of stuff. And I got some very interesting things. What interested me the most was it wasn't one words.
Right.
Okay. This is what I got. I wrote it down. First of all, I got the number 400. And then it said, "What is this?" And I was like, "What is this? What is 400? Right. I was like, "Well, come on now, give me a bit more than that." And then it said, "Where's the ship?"
All right.
Now, I'm not actually going to the cannonball. I'm not talking to the cannonball. I'm just sort of like focusing on the cannonball, trying to tune in myself to the cannonball to see if I got any impressions whilst I was working. So I'm basically trying to do a psychometry experiment with the cannonball with the app running next to it. Okay? And these sentences or these words are coming out whilst I'm doing this. Where's the ship came out. And then what's real? It's a ghost ship. And then it said, why did it sink? This is over a period of time, you understand. It's not all condensed.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Why did it sink? Too heavy to launch? Broke his neck? Who said that? Those were the things I was getting coming through on the app whilst I was doing this psychometry experiment, and I'm quickly trying to write down what they are. Now, everything else that was coming through wasn't words. It was just like disjointed words. So when these like little sentences were coming through, or you know, like the two words like ghost ship and stuff like that, it was clear. It wasn't like I couldn't have gone, that's pareidolia. It was clear.
Yeah.
As a bell. And I was, you know, like, because I am quite sceptical sometimes, even though I work spiritually, and I do have to keep a very firm divide when I'm working spiritually, sometimes trying to cross it with the paranormal, it does cause conflict, which I've talked about before.
Yeah.
So when I'm working spiritually, I try really hard not to be overly sceptical. And I'm also very aware of audio pareidolia.
Yeah.
As a thing. But these were clear. These sentences or these words are coming out that you couldn't mistake.
Yeah.
And every other thing that was coming through from it was gobbledygook. You couldn't have, like, you know, I couldn't have gone, oh, that sounded a bit like that.
That's
so
the thing.
I'll write it down. It was clear as a bell. What was
they
being
come
said.
through very clear. It's kind of, it still blows me away. And I've been doing this for a long time, of how clear they can actually come through.
Yeah. No, the only thing I would do scientific, you know, if I was going to be very critical about what I just did, you know, not just did, but what I did earlier, would be to have a separate voice recorder recording that at the same time, maybe a video camera on me so you can see the whole setup of what I was doing. So if I was looking at it from a proof perspective, I would have to do that because you only got my word on that.
Yeah.
That's what happened. You know, it's just me saying that that's what happened. So if I was going to do this more, so it would be peer reviewed in a more, you know, I hate to use the word scientific, it's not really the right term, but you know what I mean? If someone was going to look at that and go, yeah, okay, that was clear as a bell, I could hear that, you would have to do a voice recorder next to it and then a camera on you as well with the audio being recorded at the same time, putting the focus onto the phone with the app running.
Yeah.
Right, so if I was going to do that experiment again, that's where I would go with that. But for a quick, you know, experiment time, that first time using it, that's what I got. And I found that very, very interesting, in all honesty, because as I say, previously, when I just sat there and listened to it without working at all, I just sat there for 5 minutes, just thought, right, okay, just have a listen, see if you, without working any form of way, just work it, you know, just sit there and listen to it. Nothing was making sense.
Yep.
And in between these sentences, nothing was making sense.
Exactly, because that's what it's supposed to be. That's how the app works. It's basically creating gobbledygook, just noises, frequencies and sounds. And only at the point where you then started asking and starting to want to communicate and put that intention out, then something came through.
I would also say it's like there are different voices on the app. There's not like it's not the same voice. You've got a girl's voice. You've got I say voice sound.
Sounds, yeah.
You've got almost like a guttural demonic sound. You know, you've got lots of different types of sounds coming through. And I'm going to, if it's okay with Brian, because I haven't asked his permission to do this yet, but I'm going to ask it right now on air. Is it okay if I play everybody what it sounds like?
Of course, yeah. Yeah.
So that kind of gives you an idea of the different voices that are coming through, or the different sounds that are coming through. Now, I don't know about you guys, but in that, I could have picked out nah. You know, one word, nah, someone going like that. Other than that, it was backward speech. Yeah. It was like, you know.
Exactly what it was designed to be, yeah. It's just And the reason we use all those different sounds is, again, it's not important to, like, we use male, female, young, old, different types of lower tone voices, because it's the tones that we after, the lower frequencies, the mid-range, the mid-tones, the high frequencies that we after. And we mix those in, and that helps generate that cacophony of sound.
Again, what was interesting is when these sentences were coming through, it seemed to be on one of the voice tones that were coming through. So it wasn't like a girl was speaking 1 minute and then the guttural tone was speaking the next minute, and then you know, the mid tone was speaking again. You know, it seemed to be, when I was doing that experiment, all in the same tone,
single voice.
Yeah, that's what it seemed to be. I did ask for the ship's name. Didn't get a response on that. I asked for a date. Didn't get anything on that one either. I literally got what I told you to. So it sounded like whoever it was, if it was a spirit, was quite confused. Right? But I found that very interesting as an experiment. It's something I'm going to work with a little bit more, actually, because it's something I'd not tried before in regards to working with some of the artifacts I've got. I mean, I've got some weird little artifacts in my little house that I don't really tell people about. I'm not one to shout what I have around me on social medias. I keep a lot of that very private. But it's a fascinating side that I think I would work with more, having had that experience today, as I say, with this cannonball. But and I'm going to say it again, I do know where the cannonball came from, where it was bought. I know certain things about it. I don't know huge amounts. I'm not going to sit here and say I know every little thing about the history of this cannonball, because I don't, but I know roughly, you know, because these things are bought up on a regular basis and bought, you know, sold in shops in the area that it was got from. And I got it, actually, I purchased it for a completely different reason to the history of the cannonball. I actually got it because it's the closest thing to the core of the earth in metallic compound. So it was actually to work with earth energies and link in with that I bought it for. So that's why I've got it. It's very heavy, everybody. It's very heavy. Now, when you start thinking in terms of that, it does bring up an interesting concept to me, because I can't explain that. Having listened to it with it not working in any way, shape or form, and just having it play while I was sitting in the garden earlier on, you know, sunning myself, and it was complete gobbledygook, to then put it into that kind of environment where I'm working spiritually, a psychometry way with this cannonball, and then these things coming out. Once I verbally started asking questions, I wasn't getting anything. In regards to a what I would class as an intelligent response. So the name of the ship, nothing came out. Date, nothing came out. Things like that. But before that, when I was just working psychometry with the cannonball, with the app running, those statements came out. And what do you guys think of that? Because I don't know what to make of that.
Certainly interesting. Well,
yeah, it is. It's really interesting, and I want to come around to yours when lockdown's over and watch you do that, and see if you can get that sort of reaction again. But I said, because I said to my other half at the time, maybe it's because we're in a flat that's high up, and it's like with spirits, and they could work on a certain level. Maybe we're just too high up for them to be here, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I'll have to work on how to turn the app on.
I'd have to. I will when we do go out.Maybe we can find that Gibbet post again and try it there. I think that might be a good idea.
I definitely think it's an area definitely worth a lot further exploration. Do you know anybody that's worked in the same way with the app that I did today?
Yeah, a similar way. Not quite with psychometry as such, but David Barrett from Project Paranormal, he does lives where he works with objects, and he'll hold objects up and he'll ask the spirits to tell him what the objects are, can they describe them, and things like that. And he's had some very, very interesting results, a similar sort of thing. Even down to he once played a game of twist cards with a spirit with the app, and he was asking, do you want to twist or bust? And it said, hit me. And so he turned it, and it went, oh, bust. Oh. And it was like, and I watched it myself, and I was like, you've got to be joking.
So I can take this into a casino.
Just so you're not so obvious.
Can you imagine it?
The croupier. Yeah.
Red or black?
Well, that was
escorted off the premises.
That was the thing. One of the other cards he held up, he held it away from camera so people couldn't see it. And he said, right, spirit, what is this? And it just went clear as us speaking. It went black and white. And he just went, David Barrett himself, he gets excited. He was like, oh my God, did you hear that? And he turned the card round and it was a black and white card. And it's little things like that I still find fascinating. And again, that's intelligent responses. He's asking specific things about objects as well, and it's giving them very specific information. But that's what he tends to. He likes to do that sort of thing rather than just asking outright questions. Yeah. Is there anybody here? Have you got a message for me? He likes to work with visually as well.
Yeah, I have to say I was blown away a little bit when and then I have this conflict where this is going on, and I'm thinking, am I just hearing? Thinking, no, I didn't just hear that. Do you know what I mean? And it was working, and I was like, oh, okay, this is really interesting now, and. As I say, people have only got my word for it because of what I'm saying. But if I was to do it again, then I would do it in the way that I've outlined, so it could be put out to peer review. The guys come to mind on a regular basis, or they used to. Once upon a time.
We'll again.
Yeah, one day it'll happen again. So it's definitely experimentation that we're going to try further. I definitely think it's something that we're going to definitely try further. What other experiments have you seen worked with your apps?
Oh, the people do weird and wonderful things with them. There's people, like you say, they use similar to what you have with using visually. There's some people who've just tried turning them on and just instead of asking questions out verbally, they've thought them mentally. And see if that will engage a response as well. And it actually does. I've had similar things happen myself where on the lives I've gone to ask a question and my mouth's opened, but I didn't quite get the question out. It didn't come out. And the spirit already answered the very question I was going to ask.
Cool.
Which was it catches you by surprise. We've also had people, and again, I've had this happen myself and other people, where it mimics what they're saying. Which is another interesting thing that happens. They'll go to say something, and another voice will come out either at the same time or just after them and repeat exactly what they've just said. So there's people working on that sort of principle as well. But people have just gone out with these things far and wide into many, many different locations, doing many, many different things. And it's just fascinating when people report back what they've actually gotten and what, replies they have got. And actually, what we were speaking about earlier, some people have had physical things happen to them while using the apps. Like yourself, telly's turning on. People have been actually scratched and touched and things of that nature as well. Which again,
I just want to reiterate: there's no microphone in the app that's picking up what someone's saying for it to then generate off of that.
Nope. The only time it uses the microphone, if one of the apps has echo feature, and how it creates the echo is it's playing the sound out of the speaker, then it goes back through the mic and mixes it back in. So yes, but people are getting these mimicking things out of the apps that don't have access to the microphone. They just don't. There's no access to anything, and it's still doing that. So, and it's not their voice coming back through, say coming through the microphone. It's a different voice. I've had it myself where it's a complete. I've sort of said something, and I've had a female voice repeat what I've said, and everybody on the live stream's heard it. The weirdest one I did ever have was when I was using an app, and I can't remember what I said, but I asked a question, and something replied back in my voice through the app, which was weird. And my voice wasn't in there. Not even my voice pattern was in there or anything like that. And it was my voice. So something actually manipulated the audio in the app, as they do, and it was able to almost mimic my voice exactly. Now, that was creepy.
Yeah, I bet that
was. we was talking the other night actually about an incident that happened to me. I believe it was at Charlton House in London, and we were using handheld radios at that point because we're going back a few years now. And we actually heard my business partner come over the radio and tell us that it was break time, so we had to go downstairs. And when we all got down there, my business partner weren't there, and when they eventually did turn up, it was like, you called us down for lunch and for break, and you didn't bother coming. And she's like, I didn't say anything, and we're like, yeah, we heard you over the radio.
Yep.
So it's the same principle, I think.
Exactly the same thing. They can mimic you. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I suppose.
Richard.
Oh yeah, I suppose you were there, Paul, saying, "Where's the cake?"
No, because I was the one that brought the cake, so I don't know where that was. That was in my bag.
Oh dear.
Didn't tell anyone about it. God no.
So, I just find the whole subject quite fascinating, and I do think it's an area that needs to be looked at in a lot more depth, because it's just, it blows my mind in a way that a spirit can do that. But when I don't know, there are other times I've done experiments without any tech, like in my crystal room. When I've done rituals and that, it's quite often I'll get other activity going on, like raps and bangs and things feeling and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So I kind of get used to that kind of thing happening around me when I'm working. But why can they seem to be able to work with this sort of thing easier than they can a kind of general paranormal investigation? I mean, how many nights have we said, it's a really quiet night tonight, and we've sat there for like 4 hours, nothing's happening, and I know they're not performing monkeys and all that sort of stuff, but then you get an app wrapped up, and I say that experiment, I was only doing it for like 10-15 minutes. It wasn't an extended period of time that I was doing that for, and I can't, I don't know, I can't really explain that. I mean, even if I do a ritual, it's like that's a lot longer scenario than if I'm doing something like that. That was like, I'll have a quick go kind of scenario, and that blew me away just in that little time. Am I fooling myself and hearing pareidolia? I don't think so. No. I'm not that.
No.
I'm quite well versed in that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we've tried to rule out pareidolia because, again, when we do the lives and when we've had people that's used these apps and they've messaged me and said, we had a room full of like 10, 15 people and we all heard exactly the same thing at exactly the same time. That's not how pareidolia works. Pareidolia is individual to your mind, maybe it's what you're thinking at the time, what you want to hear, but for everyone to hear the same thing at the same time, that's a totally different thing. And we get that over the lives. I know somebody maybe's using it on their own, could maybe do that. But again, we've recorded sessions where we've played them back to make sure we heard what we heard, and it was there. It's just there. And we've played it then back to many different people on the record. So what do you hear? We don't tell you what you hear. And it's, well, it said this, isn't it? Exactly. So there's only so much you can put down to audio pareidolia.
Yeah. I mean, there's a famous clip, isn't there, where they play a song backwards and you're supposed to be able to hear certain words. So it is a thing. Audio pareidolia is a thing.
It is.
We
it
know
is a thing.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when you are listening for it, once it's been pointed out, because what the experiment was, they played the song forward, played it backwards, and said who heard another sentence in the backwards play of this song.
Yeah.
And I would say about half the audience put their hand up. Well, then once people got told what they're supposed to hear when the song's played backwards, everybody heard it.
Exactly.
So it is a well-known phenomena. And, you know, even Peter Kay, this is one of Paul's favourite sketches, Peter Kay misheard song lyrics.
Yeah, obviously, I just watched that recently,
It's hysterical. If you don't know what we're talking about, go
Something
Google
about
that.
your burgers. Something about your burgers are the best.
You know, so audio pareidolia is definitely a phenomena that we know of. But, as I say, when you're listening to this app, generally, as I've played, it is gobbledygook. You can't, I could, out of that few seconds or however long it was segment, I could probably have made one word, which was yup, you know, or nah, or whatever it was. I can't remember now. And I know that men and women can hear different things, you know, Yanni and Laurel. You know, if you remember that experiment that was out there. So there are things that you have to be aware of when you're working with noise and how your ears can interpret sound. But these sentences that were coming out were clear as a bell. They were someone saying, what is this? What is this? And it was what is this? You know what I mean?
It has not only as a voice, but it has like a tone, it has inflection in it, how it's saying it, it has an accent. You know, the voices. It
was very strange.
Yeah.
It was very strange. And of course, in my head, I've got all this other stuff going on. Is it audio pareidolia? Is it, you know, is it my toning? You know, what is going on here? You know, but so this was like a 10-15 minute experiment, and these phrases are coming out not all the time. And in between what I'm hearing, clear as a bell, what I'm hearing in between is gobbledygook. I'm not then making sentences to fit what I think.
Exactly,
you know.
because it's only happening when you're sort of wanting it to happen, when you want that communication to happen. Like I said, it's communication with spirit is all about intention, whether you actually verbally asked out or whether you just do psychometry, you touch an object and you're thinking and you're wanting communication. What is this? What can you think? You're opening that communication up, whether it's, like I say, it's verbally or mentally. And like what you said, spirit, we locked on a long time ago that spirit seemed to find it very, very easy to manipulate this audio. And to manipulate audio in general. I think it's an easier form of communication for them than anything else. Uses less energy, so they just more thing to use in it. They just like doing it.
Do you think it's to do? We talk in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration, don't we?
Yeah.
A lot of the time in regards to connection. Do you think it's the frequency the phones send out that they're tuning through?
I don't think it's not what the phone's sending out per se, because obviously the phone's just basically at this point sending out audio. What we believe is in the spirit world, frequencies and tones are very important. I was working with a good friend, Steve Cooper, on an app that was never released at this point, but it used as a tone generator as well as anything else to create high frequency tones or low frequency, and you can mix them together because they seem to like. I saw this on another TV show as well, where they were experimenting with tones and frequencies seem to be able to open these doorways. It's all about sound and frequencies and vibrations more than it is about anything else. So I believe the app's working on a similar principle because we've got this cacophony of sound, and they've got like high pitched, low pitched, mid tones, and we firing these out. It's the sounds themselves, the frequencies that are exciting the spirit and opening these doorways and allowing the spirit to do what they do and manipulate those frequencies as well. It's kind of it gets pretty deep if you really start getting into it. it gets, but that's what I believe. It's sound vibration is very, very important and is the key to what we're doing.
Paul?
Yeah, no, I can understand that. And, even when mediums talk about spirit, they're always talking about vibrations and stuff.
Yeah.
And maybe that's why some mediums can get certain spirits and others get someone else,
Yeah.
I can understand that in frequencies coming through and the phone using those as well. Yeah, makes sense.
It certainly seems to be. We often think of the sort of like the other side of spirit world, for want of a better word, sort of using the ether and stuff. And I suppose sound and frequency, it is known that stuff travels through there fairly easily. And if you want to communicate, even sort of modern radio, sort of Morse code or something, I mean, you're just manipulating a frequency wave, and it's sort of, once you've got that down pat, you can sort of transmit quite legible sort of stuff through it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and even in the spiritual field, we talk about raising your vibration. You're raising your vibration to start working. That's what I do when I work. I'm not like, I go from normal everyday mummy Kerry to I'm working spiritually. That's me raising my vibration into that sacred space.
Yeah.
Which is where I'm working. So it's fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah.
The whole field is absolutely fascinating.
Oh, it's come to a point now where, like I say, we've tried to pull away from sort of like how it started, ITC on these things and fake stuff and getting away from all that to where we are, where people are seriously looking at it now. They're starting to take it seriously. And because we try to explain, like we're doing tonight, of how it works, how we believe it works, how we believe spirit can, use the sound frequencies and the vibrations and things like that. I think people are starting to, they're starting to get the idea, that we're being serious about this. It's we're taking it very seriously.
I don't think many people out there who are in development of anything aren't doing it without a good, pure intention of development, of making it better. You know what I mean? Trying something. Why not try something? We may not understand it from a scientific perspective, but then none of this is understandable scientifically when you think about it. There's only certain aspects we can equate in regards to backing it up with science. At the moment, there's still a lot of science doesn't understand as much. I think there's this actual current situation shows how much science is always playing catch up. With even now, I think the science, they're going on the science, but they started from a nil knowledge perspective, and they're learning huge amounts in a very short space of time over this period of history that we're going through at the moment. And that shows that science doesn't know everything, although it seems to sometimes come across as knowing everything. It doesn't. Even if you look at the physics world and quantums and stuff like that, they're learning all the time. New theories are coming out all the time. They're put out to peer pressure. The scientists have a little argument about that in a very academic way. And then a new theory comes off the back of it, and it either progresses or it gets dropped. I remember when Stephen Hawking first talked about black holes, his theory was completely debunked, completely, poo-pooed by the rest of the scientific community. And yet, now, 20-odd years later, they're coming around to thinking that his theory was actually on the right track. So it shows that science doesn't know everything, and we don't know everything either. So we're always constantly learning and trying to develop and maybe push it forward. Have you worked with any of the society bodies with your apps at all, like the SPR or ASAP or Ghost Club or anywhere like that?
No, not yet. Not that probably won't happen in the future. Again, as as a lot of these organisations are twigging onto these things and the interest building, I'd be quite happy for any of them to come forward and say, like, we want to work and understand how these things work and, look into it a little bit deeper. I'm always open.
Do you find them dismissive of it?
Some of them, yes. I've come across some of them, again, they just won't even entertain it. Again, that's not just academic people, it's people in general. They just will not entertain the principle. See, we've got to think that they say, you can't use this, it doesn't work, it's not a thing. You've got to use a ghost box. And I say, what do you mean a ghost box? A broken radio? You'll believe a broken radio that's designed to be broken to scan through radio frequencies forwards, that it hits radio stations forwards, and you'll trust that 100% over something like this that is completely random, completely reversed, and there's no way that anything can come out forwards, and they say yes. So there is that dismissive thing still, but I think there's still more and more people who maybe are on the fence that are starting to get the idea, starting to trust that maybe not everything that's there is fake and meant to deceive, and they're willing to sort of look at it.
I think you find that, you're still sort of stuck with the old stigma of the phone app. People saying, well, they're just random word generators.
Oh, yes.
I mean, it's going to, but...
That's going to last a while yet.
Yeah, and that's obviously still got a little way to run. But, you persevere it. I mean, I'm certainly, once I've learnt how to switch mine on, I will be using it sort of in the near future.
Well, there's handy tip for you there.
What's that?
I was going to mention today. The button that's got power on it,
yeah,
turns it on, and the buttons that's got ambient bank written on them,
yeah,
they're the ambient banks.
Right. Nice music, by the way. I do like a bit of ambient. That's probably why I'm a bit carried away.
Again, joking aside, the ambience again is a very important bit that we put into some of them for that energy, because they're obviously not backwards. It's sometimes it's chants, it's music.
Yeah.
We put all sorts in, and the reason for that is because the principle. You know, when you put the radio on, and you could listen to a dozen songs, and it's just whatever, it's in the background. But a certain song comes on, and it makes the hairs on the back of your neck stand up on end.
Yeah.
And you just get that buzz, that your energy again, like what Chris said, it changes your whole frequency, your whole energy, and that's what we do it for, because we sort of pick certain. Again, it's not necessarily that it's a chant or it's a piece of music. It's the energy within the actual piece of audio itself.
Yeah.
And like you said, like a lot of them, you turn them on and it just everyone in the room, they go, oh God, that sounds amazing. That's giving me chills.
Yeah.
But because your energy raises up and your vibration raises up, it does the same for the spirit. We think that it raises them up as well and just makes them more, active and more willing to communicate. So
with the Axiom app, I noticed there was a chant on that.
Yeah.
Do you have like the English translation of that chant?
No. The team who we made the app for wanted that specific chant in. Obviously, because the Axiom app is it's got a little bit of darker stuff in it to pull in possibly that type of energy. And they wanted that in. And
Tell me.
Whoops.
Oh dear, carry on.
So, yeah, they wanted that in. Again, they could possibly, if people wanted something like that. See, because I was thinking about in a future app doing two banks where one of them was sort of Latin chant or anything like that, but then an English translation in the other bank, in the other ambient banks. You've got both, so people can understand what is being said in one as well as the other. So that is something we're looking at. But I believe it's just
it would be a good idea, I think.
It is just like a Gregorian chant to bring forth energies and stuff like that. To what I was aware of.
So
because I don't speak Latin, and it could be anything. It could be like reading out the Chinese.
No, it is a genuine Latin chant, Gregorian chant. It is a genuine thing, because I mean the group Axiom themselves, the really, really cool guys. So it was a genuine thing. But like I say, I'm hardly up on my English, never mind my Latin. So there was no.
So you played the ambient bit first to like charge the atmosphere before you switch the sweep on.
Yeah, basically that's what we designed.
Right.
Not all apps have the ambient banks, but the ones we do, we recommend that you turn the ambient banks on, and the ambient banks are designed so they kind of blend together. So you can either run ambient bank 1 or 2, or you can run them together and they sort of blend together a little bit. Mm-hmm. So you create a third sort of sound as well if you mix them. So yeah, just play that for a while, let the energy build a little bit. Doesn't have to be for long. You don't have to go for sort of like 10 minutes, just a few minutes even. And we find that helps when you turn the actual app on itself.
Ah, right. I was halfway there then.
God, if you turned it on after you finished your hour with it all. Imagine what you could have got.
Must be well charged down there.
Yeah.
Particularly with what else was going on in the atmosphere at the time, is all I'm going to say.
I can guess.
Tell you after the show.
So we've got lots of you've developed lots of different apps, different people, different positions, different teams even. Are they designed for specific types of location? Or, I mean, I know you can use them in any location, but when you designed them, like for Axiom, did you design it with a specific location in mind with regards to the Gregorian chant with it? Do they do, I don't know, an abbey quite a lot? I don't know.
Yeah, the Axiom team do that sort of location quite a lot, but we don't design certain apps for certain locations. We design them to bring in certain energies, because again, we believe spirit have certain energy levels. Darker spirits, they work on a slightly darker level and a different vibration, if you like, a different frequency. And so when we design some of the darker apps, we put that sort of stuff in, slightly darker, because it might attract them, like attracts like, as we believe. But no, they're not necessarily designed for any specific location. You can use any one of them in any specific location. All we would say is, sensibly, don't use the darker ones in your home or anything like that unless you really know what you're doing. Because they are designed to kind of, like I said, to bring in a certain energy. Maybe it's not an energy that a lot of people want to be messing on with too much, especially if they're just starting out.
So, what's your darkest app?
The darkest one, we've got several. I mean, we did one called D666, which, pretty much says what it does on the tin. It's got some really dark stuff in. But the one that's given us the most dark activity was the witch. People have used that, have experienced some pretty unusual things.
I have heard that before.
Yeah, it's a thing, and that's come from many, many different people. It's sort of generated. They've turned it on. They said the atmosphere just changes straight away, and often not for the good. And yeah, it just seems to have a certain something about it, and that's why when we sort of developed The Witch 2, we wanted to try and keep that same vibe, that same feel, and I think we've managed it and added to it. If our testing is anything to go by, I think people are in for an interesting time.
Having said that, if you're pulling those kind of energies in, and like you've recommended that if you're new to this, or you're not used to dealing with those darker energies, do you not worry that that's going to have a detrimental effect on people who might be inexperienced using it?
Well, the thing is, we advise that people who are maybe not into the darker stuff or not experienced with it, they don't use them. But again, it's just like what's happening in the world today. You've got to give people the benefit of that using the common sense. If people are going to, they're going to use them anyway. They're going to use, if you tell them not to use a dark thing, they're going to use it, even whether they experience it or not, or whether they shouldn't be or not. All we can do is try and advise them against it. It's just like the same people say, don't use a Ouija board. Ouija boards can be dark, but people just go out and buy them anyway, and they're going to use them. But they're still available. You can't just stop. You can't sort of say, people say, well, just don't put that app out because it's a bit darker. But there's people that want that sort of thing. There is people who are interested in that sort of thing. So as far as what we think is, because there might be the odd individual who might not be as quite sensible with it as they should. But they would do something just as daft anyway, whether it was with an app or without the app.
Yeah, that's true. It's self-responsibility and common sense.
Exactly, self-responsibility. So, and I'm not going to sort of like deny the people who've asked, because sometimes people have asked for these things. It's not we're just making them at random. They've asked, "Can you do this? Would this be possible? Can you go down this avenue?" And so that's kind of what we do. We take what people say to us and sort of it pushes us in different directions. So, to me, it's unfair to say, well, we're not going to do that for all you people that want it, because there might be one or two people that's just going to be a bit, not use self-responsibility with it.
Yeah, well, that's a fair comment, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like you say, anything we do within the paranormal, you have to have self-responsibility and common sense.
Exactly, with it all, whether it's good or bad, or what type of energy it is. And we always put on the darker ones, we always put warnings. We all on the Play Store there is warnings, sort of saying don't use these things lightly. Just if you're going to use this, just understand what you're doing and what you're getting into when you run this thing. That's not to say that we've had quite pleasant communication through some of the darker apps as well. Sometimes spirit just come through. Just because it's a slightly darker app doesn't mean it attracts just everything negative all the time. It's we've had it both ways.
Paul, sorry, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, no. I've actually just downloaded the Witch app, so that's something I'm going to be trying.
Right. Okay.
Sounds good fun.
It does. Like I say, people's had some. Like I say, they're just reports coming back of some interesting activity, and some of it, like I say, has been a bit personal. People have been scratched and things, but just general within the environment around them. Just like I say, like Kerry said, like knocks and bangs that they don't normally get, and just feelings and vibes and just a weird sensation when they run it. So it'll be interesting to see what you actually do get.
Yeah, I will let you know, because if it doesn't work for me, I want a refund.
And he will ask for one as well.
Yeah, you know what he's like, Brian.
And if you have to think, I will give you a refund if it doesn't work for you. Like
I
said.
No, I'm sure it's fine.
Do you think that people are a little cavalier sometimes in regards to the paranormal?
Yes.
Simple answer.
Yes. Some people, when they first come into the paranormal, they watch too many TV shows, and some of them can be a bit misleading of what the paranormal is about and how it actually works. And they just come running in. It's like, right, I've only just started. I'm learning. I'll get the Ouija board out. I'll turn all this stuff on, and I'll try and invoke whatever. And which is fine, but they don't know even the basics sometimes about like opening a session up and closing it down when you're finished. And they just dive in feet first. And because they've watched certain shows, they start antagonizing spirit as soon as they start communicating. They bark on orders and being very disrespectful, and it just doesn't end well a lot of the time.
No, that's it. I tend to. I mean, I treat anyone that I talk to, no matter who it is in the street, I'll always treat them with a certain level of respect, because that's what you do. But when it comes to spirit, again, I treat them the same. But then if I get a negative spirit that starts shouting, swearing, and God knows what else, then I sort of go on the defensive and I do it back, just like it would be if someone done that to me in the street.
Yeah, exactly.
Richard actually loves the way I actually do the Ouija board, because I just end up having rows with them and things. Especially when it comes up and says,
exactly. If they come with attitude, you've got to stand your ground. Because some of these darker things, they just like bullies. And if a bully comes at you, you got to stand your ground and sort of like, no. And you put that intention back.
That's it.
But don't.
It's almost like a protection. Yeah. In a way, you're protecting yourself because you're showing that you're just as strong as they are.
Exactly.
So they're like, okay, well, maybe I'm picked on the wrong person here. Sort of. It's almost like a form of protection.
Yeah.
And then you get this playful spirits that go, you say, like, can you spell out your name for us? And then they go, Zozo. It's like, oh, behave. Do you want to pick another name, or are we going to stick with this one all night?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, I've done the same. In the live stream we just did, one of the live streams, I've got the thing called the Hell Box, which is basically a Dibbit box. But the spirits during one of our sessions they said they wanted it to call the Hell Box. And I thought, well, I'll play along. But we actually were doing a live stream, and I was asking on live stream, I said, look, this box was meant to come to me. It's my box. And they kind of then said, it's not. And I said, well, who does this box belong to? And it didn't say anything. I said, well, ask again, who did this box belong to before it belonged to me? And it just went, Satan. Clear as a bell, and everyone on the live stream, just froze and was like, oh my God, did you hear that? And the first thing me and Sam went was like, no, it's not Satan. Come on, stop messing around. Yeah. It's like, they'll say, some spirits will say anything. Like you say, they'll say the Zozo, they'll say the Satan, Beelzebub, because they're trying to get a rise out of you. They're trying to get a reaction. No, you've got to, like you say, you've got to control the session as well, like that. Because again, some people would say, "Oh my God, it's Satan," and they'd roll with it, and the spirits will be having a field day.
Yeah,
you shouldn't be afraid to call their bluff.
Yeah, exactly.
I went to a location. It was the Ancient Ram Inn. Now everyone knows why it was famous, because it's apparently got an incubus or succubus in there. And it's well documented that it used to attack the owner for years. I can't understand why he didn't move, but maybe he enjoyed it. But at the end of the day, I went there and I'd done a Ouija board session, and it was like, is anyone there? No. Okay, well, it's obviously you are, because you moved it. And it's like, are you happy with us being here? No. Okay, can you sort of go away then so someone else can come on the board and talk to us who actually want to talk to us? No.
Yep.
Well, this is my board. You do as you're told. I want you off the board now. Getting fed up with it. And I just sort of had an argument with the board.
Yeah.
And in the end, I said, look, if you don't go, I'm going to bind you to the board and I'm going to take you somewhere else. So there's your choices. Yep. And then he decided that, he's quite happy staying where it was. So off it went. Yeah. But you're quite right. You've got to know what you're doing, and you've got to stand your ground, and don't show a weakness, sort of thing. I think
that's the thing. If you show a weakness, they've got you. They've got you straight away, and they'll just have a field day with you.
Oh, absolutely.
Even in spiritual work, you're the one in control. You don't.
Yeah.
You're the one in control of it, not them. You're the one doing the work. You're the one conjuring. You're the one, doing that intention work or whatever it be. It's up to you how that's directed, and that's the same in the paranormal field. You've got to be the one in control of that situation.
And I think that's where boards in particular are dangerous, because if you have someone that can't stay in control and not strong-willed enough, then they can open it up to so many different problems. But it's not just the boards that the issue, because even in mediumship, I think, it's still quite just as dangerous to let spirit into you, because you're releasing some of your control to them. And as soon as they've got some control.
Yeah.
But there is a level of trust. It's working on a different thing, and you've got.
Yeah,
but this is where you when we talk about your doorkeeper or your spirit guide, that's where that trust factor steps in. Because they're the ones in control. You're giving them that control for your energy. That's your control there. So that is something that's different.
But you still do run the risk. You still run the risk of releasing some of your control over to a spirit, even if he plays up and he appears really a nice guy. But the second he takes over your body and you release that, then he's there, isn't he? He can do whatever he likes.
He can do what he wants, exactly.
But your spirit guide, for a better word, is the one that wouldn't allow a spirit like that to come forward for you to be in that position. That's where your trust comes in with your spiritual connection, And regardless of that, you are always in control. Even if you're allowing someone to step forward that close that they're affecting you physically, like with transfiguration and stuff like that, you are still firmly in control of that, and that's why I found it very sceptical watching some of the TV programs when he went too far. Certain people, I'm not going to name names, but
I can't.
Very sceptical because if you're
I can't watch any TV.
If you're working in that way, that you're allowing spirit to come that close to you, then and you know what you're doing, which they do, you wouldn't allow it to go that far. That you're in that situation. That's my opinion on that. That's my personal opinion on that. Anyway, and that's just my personal opinion. Right.
Well, that's the only thing we can do to just talk our own personal opinion.
It's true. So, Brian, we're coming to the end of the second half of the show. Where can people find your apps and find you? Give yourself a shout out.
Oh, why not? Facebook, dead easy. Brian Holloway. You can come to my page and people can find out all about what we do. We have a second page which was Whitby Soul Seekers SR, and again, people are more than welcome to come along and join that group. And we post everything that we do about the apps. We post all of our test sessions and all of our live sessions, so you can come along and just have a look and see what they do before you decide you might want to go and get one. And if you want an app, you just go to the Play Store. It's Android only, unfortunately, at the moment. But you can go to the Play Store, and again, you just search my name, and all the apps will pop up.
Very easy, guys.
Made it as simple as I can.
Now, let's just quickly mention cost. They're minimal. They're minimal cost. Some of them are free.
Yeah, we do a lot free, so people can try these things. And we do some paid. Because obviously it just helps support what we do. It takes a long time. It takes a lot of man hours to do these things. But we try to keep, like what you said, we try and keep them as cheap as possible. There's some apps up on there that's 20, 30, 40 pounds plus. And I've never agreed with pricing people out of being able to use these things. A lot of teams we find that haven't got a lot of money and they can't afford a lot of equipment, but they've always got a mobile phone or a tablet. So we make the ones that are paid as cheap as possible. And like I say, it just helps support what we do a little bit. And I've always joked, it's no more than a pint of lager or and a packet of crisps. It's.
And I don't think that there's actually anything wrong with that. Like you say, you put a heck of a lot of man hours into these developments, and you've really built a fantastic reputation in the field. You're very open, very honest with what you say. If anybody's got any questions, Brian will always answer them for you.
I'm always happy. Again, if you've got a question and you want to just send me a message on Messenger, on which I do get, that happens quite often, I'm more than happy to answer any questions anyone's got.
And transparency is actually Brian's middle name. I would just like to put that out. Whenever I've had a question, he's always been very open and honest in how he explains it. As you've heard tonight, he's very personable, very approachable person, and will give you the answers that you need if you're using these apps and you don't quite understand them or you have a specific technical question.
Richard.
Yeah, Richard. Like how to turn it on, Richard.
Brian was very open and he's explained it to me, so all kudos to him.
I must admit, when I downloaded the Axiom app, I did actually speak to Brian quite a lot.
Yeah.
In regards to that app.
Thanks for telling me, Paul.
I mentioned it tonight for you.
Oh, yeah. Just before we went on air. Oh.
I have to say, when he was telling us like that, he goes, the Gregorian chant and the bells, and I was sitting there thinking, that's not what I got when I was doing it. What the hell was he doing? We were in fits, weren't we, Paul?
We was. It was so funny.
Anyway, we've come to the conclusion that it's not as clear-cut as maybe just leaving your phone at home, that it is a useful tool to take out on paranormal investigations, and apps are definitely not something that you should dismiss out of hand. On that note, thank you, Brian. Thank you so much for joining us tonight and talking all things app and paranormal with us. It's been absolutely fascinating as always.
It's been a pleasure, and thank you for having me back on.
Oh, you're very, very
No
welcome.
problem.
On that note, lads, we have come to the end of the show.
Right.
So, say goodbye, guys.
Goodbye.
Bye, guys.
Goodbye, guys.
Barclays app features help me manage my money and see where it's going. Now I've got that all-seeing feeling. I can see all my upcoming scheduled payments so I can plan ahead. See exactly when and where I spend my money so I know what types of things I'm spending it on. And compare my monthly balances so I can see my every move. Get the all-seeing feeling for yourself with money management features in the Barclays app. Make money work for you. Barclays. You need to be 16 or over to use the Barclays app. T's and C's apply.
At Ring, we reinvented the doorbell. And now we're changing the way you look at whole home protection with Ring security cameras.
Wait, Ring does cameras too?
That's right. And they're so versatile, you can put them inside or outside, wherever you need them most.
Handy.
Ring cameras let you see, hear and speak to anyone inside or outside your home. And you can control them all from the Ring app to keep you and your family connected and protected.
Now that is smart.
Ring. Smart security made simple. Learn more at ring.com.